the Commissioner's Cup final. What a dish. Down the floor. Wallace, the finish plus the foul. On a beautiful delivery from Clark.
Way through, what a pass and a finish. Nice catch there from Angel Reese.
Caitlin Clark, the WNBA's dazzling superstar, has left jaws on the floor with her relentless domination over rival Angel Reese. In 15 unforgettable showdowns, Clark's jaw-dropping plays and icy precision have turned Reese into a viral highlight reel of epic defeats. From ankle-breaking crossovers to clutch game winners, these moments have sparked heated debates and electrified fans. But what fuels this fiery rivalry? Buckle up as we dive into the drama, unpack each humiliating clash, and reveal why Clark's brilliance keeps stealing the spotlight. When rivalry turns into warfare. From the opening tip, it was clear this game wasn't going to be a casual showcase of talent. It was a battle. Caitlin Clark, fresh off her explosive college career, stepped onto the court against a familiar face, Angel Reese.
Their rivalry, already forged in the NCAA spotlight,
now had a new stage, the WNBA, and Chicago was determined to make their presence known. But the opening moments told a different story. Clark came out blazing, burying deep threes, threading no-look passes, and commanding the floor like a veteran. Indiana hummed with confidence, the ball moving like clockwork, her vision slicing through Chicago's defense. The first quarter felt like hers alone, but beneath the highlight plays, tension simmered. Chicago wasn't just here to compete, they were here to test limits. And when Clark's rhythm threatened to put the game out of reach, the Sky's frustration began to seep into every possession.
And Clark. I mean, that's clearly a foul which was called. The question is, will they call it?
Point guard Kennedy Carter, unable to contain Clark defensively, grew reckless. Turnovers piled up, missed rotations left gaps, and with Indiana tightening their grip in the second quarter, the Sky's energy shifted from strategy to survival. By the third, Chicago unveiled their new approach, physicality, doubling Clark early, cutting off lanes and sending bodies at her every time she touched the ball. Dana Evans set the tone, sending Clark to the floor with a hard foul. On the next play, rookie big Camila Cardoso hammered her at the rim, leaving Clark shaken and briefly sidelined. Yet even from the bench, she stayed locked in. When she returned, her presence immediately disrupted Chicago's flow. A lazy pass from Carter turned into a quick steal for Clark, but instead of retreating, Carter chased her down and physically yanked the ball back. No whistle. It was a moment that spoke volumes, not just about the game, but about the league's response to Clark's growing dominance. Were opponents pushing boundaries, betting that referees wouldn't step in? The tension boiled over when Carter delivered another off-the-ball shove, barely earning a call. Reese, celebrating as if it were a game winner, only poured gasoline on the fire. Indiana kept their composure, sticking to smart ball movement and efficient scoring. Chicago, meanwhile, abandoned finesse entirely, leaning into contact, body checks, and borderline plays to claw back. Still, Clark refused to be dragged into the chaos. She poured in 3 after 3, notching a career high in points and assists. While Reese's stat line faded into the background, Clark dismantled Chicago's defense possession by possession. Yet the Sky found ways to answer. Lindsay Allen's hot streak, Reese's timely finishes, and just enough defensive disruption to keep Indiana from running away with it. By the time the scoreboard read 24-11 in Chicago's favor, the message was clear. This wasn't just a game. It was a test of resilience, a battle of wills, and the opening chapter in a WNBA rivalry that had shifted from competitive to personal. And the night was far from over. But how did a single defensive stand flip momentum so violently that it left one team stunned and the other unstoppable? Keep watching. When defense turns the tide. With Chicago holding the edge and Angel Reese steadily working inside, Indiana needed a change, and fast. The Fever made a calculated move, sending in their defensive powerhouse, Temi Fagbenle, a player whose presence alone can shift momentum. The effect was instant. On her first key play, she read Reese's move perfectly, tipped the ball away, and triggered a fast break. Caitlin Clark gathered the pass, threading a laser-like assist through traffic for a highlight-worthy finish. The crowd felt the shift as the scoreboard tightened to 26-23. Sensing blood in the water, Indiana pushed harder. The first quarter clock ticked toward its final moments, and they found themselves with a chance to tie the game. But Fagbenle, despite her dominance on defense, revealed the one weakness Chicago could exploit: her offense. On a crucial possession, Clark worked the ball against Dana Evans, but when it swung to Fagbenle, her shot missed everything. It was a rare stumble in an otherwise game-changing defensive stint. Still, the Fever weren't slowing down. They ended the first quarter on a 12-2 run, forcing turnovers and clawing their way back. Angel Reese, usually a force in the paint, began missing routine layups, each one giving Indiana more oxygen. Clark capitalized, attacking with a mix of patience and precision. On one possession, she sank an off-balance shot that seemed to defy logic. On another, she exploited a defensive lapse, delivering a pinpoint assist to a teammate cutting through the lane. Fagbenle remained Reese's nightmare. Even when Reese tried to counter with her footwork, spinning off her left shoulder, the defensive wall stood firm, forcing a travel and flipping possession. These stops allowed Clark to step into her comfort zone, drilling jumpers with surgical precision. The first quarter ended with her in full rhythm, scanning the court with that trademark 20/20 vision, finding passing lanes most players never see. It wasn't just scoring. One of the night's biggest defensive moments came when Fagbenle swatted a shot clean at the rim, sparking another Fever break. Clark, sensing Chicago's defense reeling, orchestrated play after play, turning the floor into her chessboard. And then came the real weapon, her partnership with Kelsey Mitchell. Clark's playmaking confidence fed into Mitchell's shooting rhythm, and soon Mitchell was draining shots from deep with ease, 5 of 10 from beyond the arc. Even with the Fever heating up, Chicago tried to slow the game down. They burned the clock, nearly drawing a violation before being forced into a desperate shot. Clark leaked out in transition, narrowly missing another chance to punish them. Still, Indiana's momentum only grew. With Clark steering the offense and Fagbenle anchoring the defense, the Fever pushed their lead to double digits, 43-33. But if Indiana thought Chicago would fold, they were mistaken. The sky wasn't done, not by a long shot. And what happened now turned a tense battle into something unforgettable. How did Caitlin Clark flip a fierce rivalry into pure domination? Stay right here. How Caitlin Clark turned a rivalry into a masterclass. Chicago had thrown every defensive look they could think of at Caitlin Clark: switches, traps, double teams, even outright physicality. But none of it mattered. Number 22 simply refused to flinch. She attacked with the same cold focus she'd had since tip-off, driving hard to the rim without even checking if the shot had dropped, letting the stunned Chicago crowd provide her answer. And when the contact came, she brushed it off, finishing plays through the foul, collecting and ones as casually as if she were pocketing spare change. The scoring alone would have been enough to silence a building, but Clark wasn't content with just putting points on the board. She was dishing assists like she was collecting trophies, each pass sharper and more precise than the last. It was the kind of vision that made defenders second-guess themselves and teammates look unstoppable. She had 14 by this point, and every one of them seemed to chip away at Chicago's confidence. Angel Reese tried to seize a moment of her own before halftime, stepping into an awkward mid-range jumper that somehow fell. It was a brief spark, but Clark made sure it didn't last. Seconds later, she intercepted a pass intended for Reese, sprinted the floor, and finished at the rim to end the quarter with Indiana ahead 47-43. The third quarter picked up right where the second left off. Clark and Kelsey Mitchell, Indiana's self-proclaimed splash girls, were raining jumpers from everywhere. The sky scrambled, but their rotations only seemed to open more cracks. Clark's step-back three drew a foul, and she strolled to the line, sinking all 3 free throws without a hint of doubt, stretching the lead to 54-46. Chicago kept answering in spurts, but Clark's command of the game never wavered. She didn't force the issue, she trusted her teammates, feeding Aaliyah Boston in the paint and letting Mitchell fire away from deep. Even when Chicago converted on easy looks, Clark's composure was unshakable. One player, however, refused to give up. Chicago's Black Air Force energy guard, Kennedy Carter, was still prowling for any opening to swing momentum. But when Clark checked back in late in the third, she didn't meet force with force. She played chess, shifting pieces, creating mismatches, and letting the game bend to her tempo. With Temi Fagbenle holding firm in the paint, the Sky's offense kept hitting a wall, but her own offensive limitations occasionally stalled possessions. Still, Indiana's cushion grew, 87-71 in the fourth, and the game's outcome was all but sealed. At that point, Clark could have coasted, but she wasn't built for that. She spotted up beyond the arc, buried her 6th three of the night, and grinned. The pace had slowed, but her creativity hadn't. With the fever in control, she let loose, dribbling and passing with the kind of swagger reserved for players who know they've already broken their opponent. Angel Reese, once a looming threat, was now just another frustrated defender in the highlight reel Caitlin Clark was busy putting together. But how did Caitlin Clark take a heated rivalry with Angel Reese and turn it into her own unforgettable showcase? Stay tuned, this is far from over. When Caitlin Clark turned a rivalry into a showcase. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, a matchup guaranteed to pack arenas and light up headlines. This night was no exception. From the opening minutes, the tension was thick, the crowd buzzing with anticipation. Clark wasted no time setting the tone, drilling a three-pointer with effortless precision. Then moments later, delivering a subtle push on Reese during a jostle for position. Reese popped right back up, meeting Clark face to face, the sparks between them unmistakable. But this wasn't just another game for Clark. It was a statement. She wasn't content to trade buckets. She wanted to leave no doubt about the gap between them. By the end of the night, her stat line would show a triple-double shattered records, and a performance so commanding that the so-called rivalry began to resemble a one-sided showcase. From the start, she welcomed the physical play, working through contact, driving hard to the rim, earning trips to the free throw line, and converting them with unshakable calm. Clark made it clear she wouldn't be bullied off her game. Reese had her moments, muscling inside for a finish through contact, but every spark she ignited was quickly smothered. Then came one of the night's loudest moments, Clark stepping into her first logo three of the season, burying it from a distance that drew an audible gasp from the crowd. Reese tried to answer with a deep shot of her own, but clanked it. Only for Clark to fire back with another long-range attempt that rimmed out. The pattern repeated. Reese attacked the rim but met Aaliyah Boston's immovable defense. Her drive swallowed up without mercy. Clark adjusted instantly, shifting from scorer to orchestrator. In transition, she zipped passes through impossible gaps, dimes that could only be seen and delivered by someone with her vision. A laser to Howard for a foul, a perfectly timed feed to Boston that somehow slipped past three defenders. But Indiana's early problem was clear. Her teammates weren't always ready for the speed and accuracy of those passes, squandering opportunities that could have blown the game open. That changed when Lexi Hull checked in. Hull understood Clark's rhythm. She cut at the right moments, caught everything clean, and finished with confidence. In one sequence, Clark led a fast break, sold the defense with her eyes, and dropped a no-look pass to Hull for an easy lay-in, a moment that electrified the fever bench. Reese, sensing the game slipping, tried to reclaim momentum by stepping out for a three and knocking it down, but Clark immediately tightened the screws, feeding Boston inside for a fake-and finish that showcased their growing two-player chemistry. Frustration finally boiled over for Reese. On the very next play, she shoved Boston in the face in a blatant attempt to break that connection. a desperate move from a star who was watching her team unravel. Clark didn't react with words or theatrics. She just kept playing, kept controlling, and kept making Reese chase shadows. And how did Caitlin Clark turn a heated clash into a masterclass, leaving Angel Reese chasing shadows all night? Keep watching. The answer might just change how you see the game. Clark turns the court into a playground. The tension from the first half hadn't cooled, but Caitlin Clark wasn't about to let the pace drop. If anything, she pressed harder, orchestrating the offense with precision and flair. Her passing kept the defense guessing, the ball zipping from her hands like it was magnetically drawn to the perfect spot. Every touch was a reminder: Clark could hurt you from anywhere on the floor. One moment it was a silky mid-range jumper sliding through the net. The next, it was a perfectly timed feed to Aaliyah Boston, whose own jumper fell with ease. The connection between Clark and Boston wasn't just good, it was electric. It almost felt as if their chemistry was giving Clark extra lift, every possession charged with an unspoken rhythm. Angel Reese, for her part, continued trying to make plays, showing flashes of her own passing ability. But Clark's shot selection, while occasionally ambitious, kept the crowd leaning forward in anticipation. On the break, she sometimes asked a little too much from her veterans, pushing the ball ahead to Nyssa Howard in risky bursts. But those gambles were part of the thrill. Then, with just 4 seconds left in the second quarter, Clark gave the fans exactly what they had come for. Dribbling at the top, eyes scanning, she stepped back and let it fly. The buzzer sounded as the ball cut cleanly through the air and splashed home. A dagger 3 to close the half. The crowd erupted. The Fever marched into halftime with a 13-point lead and momentum thick enough to taste. When the third quarter began, they wasted no time in pressing the advantage. Clark was in full command, spinning away from defenders and threading bounce passes into traffic like she was conducting a masterclass. One of those passes found Howard wide open under the rim, who laid it in off a feed so precise it seemed inevitable. The playmaking didn't stop. Clark's court vision turned every rebound into a fast break opportunity, her 6th board of the night leading to another laser pass, only for the layup to rim out. No matter. Boston was there, unshaken and ready, adjusting beautifully to her role alongside Clark. With a quick pump fake to freeze her defender, she rumbled into the paint and finished strong. Possession after possession, Clark kept threading the needle, balancing her scoring with a steady stream of assists, all while keeping Reese's defensive presence neutralized. It wasn't just skill, it was control. And the more Clark dictated the pace, the more Angel Reese's impact seemed to fade, her earlier fire now meeting an opponent who had the answers for everything.
This matchup between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese is exactly what the WNBA needs. These two girls were going at each other, and it was amazing to see.
The game was starting to feel less like a back-and-forth duel and more like a performance. One headlined by Caitlin Clark, with Angel Reese playing an unwilling supporting role. Was Caitlin Clark simply hitting her stride, or methodically dismantling Angel Reese's game piece by piece? Stay tuned, the full story is about to unfold. When control turns into domination. Angel Reese fought for every inch in the paint. She battled hard against the towering presence of Camila Cardoso, twisting and spinning, trying to force the ball into the hoop. But the rim stayed unkind. Even when she managed to grab her own rebound, another chance slipped away, this time swiped cleanly by Caitlin Clark. That single possession set the tone. Clark was no longer just playing the game. She was controlling it, bending the pace and rhythm entirely to her will. Her confidence was visible in every step, driving into the lane, shaking off defenders like veteran Courtney Vandersloot, then pulling up for a smooth step-back jumper, pure and perfect. The lead stretched, the crowd roared, and the pressure on Reese and the Chicago sky grew heavier. Up until the third quarter, the game had been fierce but mostly composed. Then the temperature spiked. Chicago missed a 3, and in the scramble for the rebound, Reese shoved Howard in the back. No whistle. Seconds later, Clark tried to stop a fast break with a take foul, but Reese took it personally. The two tangled. Clark gave a noticeable shove. Reese stepped straight into her space, eyes locked, jaw set. Words flew as Clark turned and walked away. After a video review, the officials called it a flagrant foul on Clark, an immediate point of controversy. Both players downplayed it afterward, calling it just a common foul. But anyone watching could see it had cracked something open. The rivalry wasn't just simmering anymore. It was boiling. From that moment, Clark came out firing. Aaliyah Boston nailed a three. Clark drove, dished, and orchestrated the floor like a maestro. She fed Boston inside for an easy two, then sprinted coast to coast, delivering a dazzling dime that Mitchell narrowly missed converting. By the numbers, Clark was up to 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists, and the Fever's momentum was unstoppable. She wasn't just chasing stats, she was chasing dominance. "I'm just trying to impact winning the right way," Clark said later, reflecting on how past losses had sharpened her hunger. Her teammates ran the floor in transition, and suddenly every pass, every shot felt easier. With just 2 assists and 1 rebound standing between her and a triple-double, Clark found Mitchell for a layup. The building shook with applause. She took the ball back from Boston, fed her again inside, and there it was, assist number 10. 1 rebound to go. Before sealing it, Clark drilled a deep 3, pushing her to 20 points. Meanwhile, her veteran teammate Diana Taurasi, already a legend, made history of her own, moving into third on the WNBA's all-time scoring list. Finally, Clark snatched the rebound she needed. The crowd erupted, triple-double, her third career one, and in just her second WNBA season opener. The scoreboard told the rest. The Fever had crushed the sky. On this night, no doubt owned the court, and Angel Reese had been on the receiving end of a masterclass in humiliation. So, what do you think? Was Caitlin Clark's triple-double just a statement of skill, or a deliberate message aimed at Angel Reese and the sky? We'd like to hear your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.